Alright, in this tutorial we're going to look at how to use Adobe Illustrator to create a typographic poster, which is when we have a poster that uses primarily type, text, letters, words arranged in a way that looks artistic and interesting to deliver a point or an idea or develop. Here's an example of one that I created yesterday using Adobe Illustrator. And this is from Shakespeare's Macbeth. This is the famous soliloquy, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And what I did is I arranged this, and I found in the course of doing this that a theme developed around time. There's a lot of words around time, like an hour and time and tomorrow and all these ideas. Out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, that relates to time. Yesterday, so I found all these different words to help me develop that theme as I was doing the job. So it's a good idea if you can analyze those before you start the work. So the first thing I did when I did this is I looked up the soliloquy on the internet, and I made sure I had the text correct. I double checked it against my sources, made sure my spelling was correct, and then I copied this from Word into Adobe Illustrator. So in order to copy this into Illustrator, I made sure that I had the text tool selected, and I created a nice big text box, and I pasted it by using Control V. And another way to do it would be to use Edit, Paste. Okay, that's the only option that'll work. So if I want to make this easier to read or make it a little bit bigger, I'm just going to crank up the size a little bit. And I'm actually going to take this and put it off of my workboard. So remember that the Adobe Illustrator workspace has the artboard and then the canvas, and the canvas is the area that I can put things that I'm not really using right now or I might save up for later. So let me grab this text and move it off the side, and that's so I can copy stuff out of it and put it into play as needed. So I might even put it down here so I can see what I'm doing better. Okay, now there's a couple things I can do. I'm going to take my workspace menu, I'm going to switch this to typography, and this is going to open up all my panels that are going to give me control over my text, including character, paragraph, etc. We'll be working with some specific things like tracking, which controls how far apart the letters are. We'll also be working with scale of our text, horizontal scale and vertical scale, so that we can create those nifty effects and stretching them out. In addition, we'll be using the type menu to create outlines, and creating outlines will essentially give us more control over messing with the size, scaling things up and down horizontally and vertically to fit a specific space. So let's start out by, let's see if we can close these panels off, or go back to Essentials, that'll work. Okay, so I'm going to take the first line, and all I'm going to do is, I'm going to take the first line of the poem by using my text tool, my type tool, and selecting it, copying it, Control C, go back out here, and I'm going to make a text area, and I'm going to put Control V to build that in. Now that's very small. I want that to fill up the whole first line. That's our opening salvo in the Macbeth soliloquy. So let's get that in there, and let's build up the size. Now one thing that might be helpful to do is open up the character panel. Now this character panel has a few more things in it than the one in the typographic panel, so I'm going to use this one because it's got a lot more choices in it. So including font size. I'm going to work with my font face also. Let's put this up to like 36. There we go. And let's bring this down a little bit. Okay, so there. And a lot of times with typographic posters, we're going to use a serifed font. So this one's not serifed, but a serifed font is the one that's going to have these embellishments, these extra marks to finish off the lettering. So like that's a serifed font. It's a little bolder than I want to use right now at this point. It's really not the most important line of the point in the soliloquy. So I'm going to work with some other ones. I want to make sure that, like for this one, Castellar, this one has only capital letters. So I'm going to make sure I've got one that's got capital and lowercase. Cambria looks like a good choice. There we go. So now I'm going to take my character panel and adjust the spacing. This is called the tracking. Tracking affects how far apart the letters are, and this one is horizontal scale. Not too much, just let's try 110. And a lot of this is about making mistakes and experimenting and looking for how to get it right. There we go. So that'll work. So this is going to fill up the width of my page at the top. I probably should make that just big enough to fit the space, and if I want to center it, I can open my align panel up, make sure I'm aligning to artboard, and centering it this way. There it goes. So I want to try to remember that these edges are my margins, and I'm going to try to align everything else I do in the work to those. So let me take this next line and copy it. And my goal is to eventually create some more interesting arrangements of words and text and letters. So I'm going to take this area here, and I'm going to build a block. And again, I'm going to use a serif font. And let's look for a serif font that has upper and lowercase. Serif fonts, again, have those embellishments on the edges of the letters. Let's try a bold. That's very nice. Let's bring up the size to fit the area. Okay. And I can also affect my spacing between the letters. Okay, so I can bring it close together. It still has to be legible, so even though it's typographic art, it's also legible. It has to be readable. So you don't want to crush things too much. Let's bring that up just a bit more. Okay. And I want to emphasize words that have to do with time. So here's the word time. Even within an area that's set up at one size, I can make other changes. In fact, I can even change the font of that letter, that word. So if I change that up to Engravers MT, there we go. Now that's crowding it just a bit, so I'm going to go back in here, and I can affect this first line separately. I could, if I wanted to, take that line out and separate it. There's a lot of ways to work this up. So let me change the spacing on that line so that the following line will have a little bit more breathing room. You have to do both. Let's see. Character. And let's bring that up to 60. There we go. That's a bit more than I wanted, but I think it's probably going to work best. And I have a good time. Let's make all the spacing on that at 48. Oops. That's the wrong thing. Spacing at 48. There we go. That looks nice. Okay. So I really want to make this a block. So I want to have consistent margins and edges. So I'm also going to take the word word and make it into, let's see, this one here. It tells me it's Engravers MT. Let's make those two the same. Engravers MT. So I can also find my font faces up here. Here I'm not going to see the example of what it looks like. I'm just going to see the name of the font. So as you can see, that one got too big and it edged it out of the space. So when I'm finished, what I can do is mess around with those. I can adjust and edit the individual pieces by choosing type, create outlines on the whole thing. So now this is no longer editable as text. So one thing that you can do, if you think you might want to change back to the way it was, is Alt drag that off. So now I've got a copy up there if I want to go back in time. So I take this piece, and this one is going to be outlines, and you can see the difference. The outlines, we can see the individual points, and this one is text and editable as such. This one we can only edit the shapes of things. Now that's a grouped object. How do I tell it's grouped? I go to here, and I notice that this is the one that's selected, and it says it's a group. Now in order to edit individual pieces, let's open the group. So now I'm inside the group, double clicked on it. I'm going to take the word here, and let's crank that up in size just a little bit. Bring it to the edge. There we go. So now I've got a block shaped like that. To get out of the group, I go back to here and click to get out of isolation mode. Okay, now we've got another line to do. Okay, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Very famous. This is the one this soliloquy is best known by tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. So I take those three pieces, and again, they relate to time. So I'm going to take those. I'm going to make a text box up here. I have to click the arrow key to get out of that selection. And I'm going to do this. Let's do it like this. So I'm going to use these, Control V to paste. I'm going to move my layers panel out of the way. A few things I'm going to keep handy. One of them is the layers panel. And what I want to be able to do is take that text, I want to make it big, and I want to alternate between the shapes of things. So I'm going to take, let's try a much more interesting font. And some of these I know. Tomorrow, that's very different from the other ones. So one of the tricks with typographic art is to find ways to differentiate your text and emphasize certain concepts through contrast. And contrast here is done by working out different contrasting and emphasizing things by changing up the text, working with size, working with alignment and orientation and spacing and font. So all these changes allow us to make different looks on our text. So let's take this piece here, tomorrow, and I'm going to work with the horizontal spacing, and my goal here is to fill up this line with the tomorrow. So let me do the horizontal scale. That's a bit much, isn't it? Let's try it. Okay, I want it to fit. And let's bring this piece up. Let's change this one to type font. Let's try again engravers MT. And my goal with that was to fit it within that line so that and is end capped on each side. So I'm going to the and here. And is not an important word here, is it? So I'm going to bring that down to about 24. And I'll bring this one down to 24 as well, so they match. And I'm still have to bring this one down just a bit more to make it fit. So character, I'm going to bring down the horizontal scale. There we go. And it's really an experimental process. Okay. So I'm going to just copy and paste that piece, Control C and Control V. So there I've got a block that fits this. Now you can see that the edge over here doesn't quite fit the way I want it to. So again, I'm going to make a copy of this by Alt dragging it off. So I've got a copy in case things go bad and I want to make it different. And I can also see that I want this to line up. Okay, so I'm going to take these things, and the goal is to create a composition of text that delivers an idea. Okay, so let's take this and type, create outline. So now it's shapes, and I'm going to work with this so that it lines up with the other parts. And I'm going to get inside this group, select those two pieces. I'm going to try to make it line up this way. So now I've got sort of a block of text, sort of a shape. Okay, so there's a lot of ways you can arrange your type in your text, and that's sort of how it works. So I'm going to take another line out of here, creeps in this petty paste from day to day, and we'll keep working that up.